Hi guys and welcome to the channel. It is that time of year again, a new version of macOS is almost upon us. This year's installment is called macOS Ventura in honor of something that nobody really cares about, and I'm pretty sure there are already tens if not hundreds of videos on YouTube from the usual suspects telling you that this new version of macOS is the best thing since sliced bread, and that you should immediately install it on your Mac to enjoy all of its new features. Well, my video is going to be exactly the opposite of that. So I'm going to tell you why installing macOS Ventura is probably not a very good idea. The main reason to avoid new versions of macOS is that they are typically very buggy. And when I say very buggy, I mean that they are beta quality at best. And typically, the bigger the release, the more features it has, the more bugs there are. And macOS Ventura seems to be a very large release. So as you can see, even the list of flagship features seems to be very long. So I can practically guarantee that it's going to have more bugs than there are fleas on a stray dog. And you probably think that I am exaggerating, but I'm really not. So let me show you some examples of truly awful bugs in macOS. For example, in macOS 10.10, also known as Yosemite, Apple decided to replace a piece of software called MDNS Responder with another piece of software called DiscoveryD. So what exactly this piece of software did is irrelevant, but it completely broke networking in macOS. And Apple actually fixed this issue in macOS 10.10.4, 7 months after the release of Yosemite. So for 7 months after the release of Yosemite, networking in macOS was mostly broken. Another example of a pretty serious issue in macOS, and this one is a real doozy. The headline says it all. Root login without password allowed by default on macOS 10 High Sierra. I mean, software issues don't really get much worse than that. And another awful issue, and also in macOS High Sierra. If you installed macOS High Sierra and you created an encrypted APFS volume, which was actually the default setting in High Sierra, then your password would have been saved in clear text in the password hint field. But who cares about Yosemite and High Sierra, right? This was a long time ago. So let's move to more recent issues. The macOS Big Sur installer was not properly checking for free space on the system volume. So if the user had File Vault 2 enabled, which is full disk encryption, then the installer would corrupt the encrypted volume and completely destroy user data. And finally, macOS Monterey, which is actually quite recent. It was released just last year. Apparently, it is incompatible with many USB hubs, and this issue is still not fully resolved. So basically, to summarize macOS software quality over time, I created this graphic. It is rather crude, but I believe it to be generally accurate. When a new macOS version is released, its software quality is pretty low. Then Apple gradually improves it until it actually becomes somewhat usable. But then a new version of macOS is released and the whole cycle starts anew. And when you install a new version of macOS immediately after its release, you are basically going from here to here, which is not a very smart move in my opinion. A much better idea, in my opinion, would be to wait for another year and then upgrade to the next version of macOS. So in this case, you will be moving from here to here. So basically, you will be getting all the new features of the next version of macOS, but without the bugs. But there are also other things that should be taken into consideration before upgrading to a new version of macOS. For example, very often installing a new version, a new major version of macOS resets hidden settings that can be only accessed from the command line using the defaults command. But that's actually not too bad. As you can see, I have created a small shell script which sets all those hidden settings to where I want them to be. Application permissions, in my opinion, are a much bigger problem. In case you don't know, in recent versions of macOS, when you install an application and you want it to actually do something useful, you have to explicitly grant it all sorts of permissions. So, for example, I am recording this video in OBS and I had to grant the OBS a permission to access my camera. And here you can see that since I am a heavy user of system automation, I also had to grant permissions to all my scripts and stuff like that. So installing a new major version of macOS completely resets the permission database, which means that if I install, for example, a new version of macOS today, I will have to grant all these permissions again, which is a rather tedious process. And in my opinion, life is just too short to deal with this bullshit on a yearly basis. So returning to this chart, in my opinion, the smartest thing to do is actually this. So instead of moving to the next version of macOS, it would be much better to skip the next version and move to the version that comes after the next. And I'm pretty sure some people might be worried about security implications of this, but you don't need to worry because Apple actually supports every major version of macOS for 3 years. So, for example, macOS Big Sur will be supported until October 2023. By the way, I'm currently on macOS Big Sur, so in October 2023 I will upgrade to macOS Ventura. But by that time Ventura will already be as stable as it will ever be. So that's it for this video, and thank you for watching. Bye!